The reality of being a woman who wants independence. Some people think independence is just about earning money. Others think it is about becoming successful, building a career, traveling alone, or proving that you do not need anyone. But the reality of being a woman who wants independence is far more complicated than that. Because independence is not just freedom. Sometimes it is pressure. Sometimes it is loneliness. Sometimes it is emotional exhaustion. Sometimes it is carrying responsibilities that nobody sees. And many women silently experience this every single day. A lot of people admire independent women from a distance. They see confidence. They see achievements. They see discipline. They see education. They see ambition. They see a woman who seems strong and focused. But they do not always see the emotional side of it. They do not see the nights filled with anxiety. They do not see the fear of failure. They do not see the pressure of constantly trying to prove yourself. They do not see the emotional burden that comes with carrying big dreams in environments that may not fully support them. And honestly, one of the hardest things about being an ambitious woman is that people often romanticize your strength while ignoring your humanity. People admire strong women, but many people do not know how to support them because society often expects women to be everything at once. Strong but soft. Ambitious but not intimidating, independent but still dependent enough to make others comfortable, confident but never too confident, successful but never so successful that people begin feeling threatened. And trying to balance all these expectations can become emotionally exhausting, especially for young women who are still trying to understand themselves, because the journey toward independence is rarely simple. Sometimes it looks beautiful from the outside, but inside it can feel incredibly heavy. Sometimes independence looks like studying late at night while everyone else is asleep. Sometimes it looks like pretending to be okay while silently struggling with stress. Sometimes it looks like leaving your home country to pursue education while carrying loneliness every single day. Sometimes it looks like sacrificing comfort, rest, and emotional peace just to build a better future. And many women are doing exactly that right now. There are women who wake up every morning carrying dreams that nobody around them fully understands. Dreams of education, dreams of freedom, dreams of financial stability, dreams of creating opportunities for themselves and their families, dreams of living with dignity. And those dreams are powerful, but they are also heavy, because dreams come with responsibility. The moment a woman begins taking her future seriously, life changes. People start observing her differently. People start judging her differently. People start questioning her choices. Sometimes she becomes too ambitious. Sometimes she becomes too focused. Sometimes people accuse her of changing. But growth always changes people, and there is nothing wrong with that. The truth is, independence changes the way a woman sees herself. When a woman becomes educated, emotionally aware, and financially independent, she begins understanding her own value differently. She begins realizing she deserves respect. She begins realizing her voice matters. She begins realizing she does not have to remain trapped in situations that destroy her peace. And that realization is powerful, because for many women around the world, independence is not just a lifestyle choice. It is survival. It is the ability to protect yourself. It is the ability to make decisions about your own future. It is the ability to say no to disrespect. It is the ability to leave unhealthy situations. It is the ability to build a life based on dignity instead of fear. And every human being deserves that. But nobody really talks enough about the emotional cost that sometimes comes with becoming independent. Because independence often requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires leaving environments that limit your growth. Sometimes it requires disappointing people who expected you to remain small. Sometimes it requires standing alone, and standing alone can feel terrifying, especially when you are young, especially when you come from environments where women are expected to prioritize everyone else before themselves. Many women grow up learning how to care for others, how to support others, how to sacrifice for others, but very few women are taught how to care for themselves without feeling guilty. And that guilt follows many women for years. Women feel guilty for resting. Women feel guilty for saying no. Women feel guilty for protecting their peace. Women feel guilty for choosing education. Women feel guilty for having boundaries. Women feel guilty for wanting more from life, and honestly, that emotional pressure can become exhausting. Because constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations while also trying to build your future can slowly drain a person emotionally. Many ambitious women quietly carry burnout, not because they are weak, but because they are trying to carry too much at once: education, work, family pressure, financial stress, social expectations, personal healing, future goals, emotional struggles, all at the same time. And after some time, even strong people become tired. This is something society often forgets. Strong women still need support. Strong women still cry. Strong women still feel lonely. Strong women still experience emotional pain. Strong women still need rest. Strength does not cancel humanity. And perhaps one of the most dangerous ideas in modern society is the idea that independent women should never struggle emotionally. People sometimes look at successful women and assume they have everything figured out. But success does not automatically remove loneliness. Success does not automatically remove anxiety. Success does not automatically heal emotional wounds. A woman can be successful and still feel overwhelmed. A woman can be independent and still feel emotionally exhausted. A woman can appear strong while secretly fighting silent battles nobody knows about. And this is why emotional health matters so much. Because success without peace eventually becomes emptiness. Many people spend years chasing achievements while silently losing themselves. And this happens especially among young people today. We live in a world where everyone feels pressured to constantly achieve more. More success, more productivity, more accomplishments, more certificates, more money, more validation. And social media has intensified this pressure. Every day people see carefully edited versions of other people's lives. Perfect photos, perfect lifestyles, perfect relationships, perfect achievements. And slowly, people begin comparing their real lives to someone else's highlights. This creates enormous emotional pressure, especially for young women, because women today are expected to excel in every area of life at the same time. They are expected to be educated, beautiful, emotionally intelligent, financially stable, successful, socially active, healthy, confident, disciplined, kind, feminine, strong. And trying to become all of these things simultaneously can become mentally exhausting. Sometimes women become so focused on surviving and achieving that they forget to ask themselves a very important question. Am I actually happy? Not successful, not productive, not impressive, but genuinely happy. Because happiness and peace matter too. And perhaps real success should include emotional well-being, not just achievements. This is something many people realize too late. There are people who achieve everything they once dreamed about, but still feel emotionally empty. Why? Because human beings do not only need success, they also need meaning, connection, peace, purpose, love, belonging. And many independent women struggle with balancing ambition and emotional well-being, especially women who have experienced difficult environments. Because when someone grows up around instability, pressure, or uncertainty, they often develop survival mode. And survival mode changes people. It teaches people to constantly worry about the future. It teaches people to overwork. It teaches people to remain emotionally alert all the time. Sometimes ambitious women are not obsessed with success because they love luxury. Sometimes they are obsessed with stability because they know what instability feels like. That is a very important difference. For many women, independence is deeply connected to safety, financial safety, emotional safety, psychological safety. The ability to know that no matter what happens, they can survive. And honestly, that desire is understandable, because dependence can feel terrifying when someone has experienced uncertainty in life. This is why education matters so much. Education changes lives. Not only financially, but psychologically. Education changes the way people think. It changes confidence. It changes opportunities. It changes how people see themselves. And for women especially, education can become a form of empowerment. Not because education makes someone superior, but because knowledge creates choices. A woman with knowledge has more opportunities. A woman with education has more confidence. A woman with financial independence has more control over her future. And every human being deserves the opportunity to build a meaningful life. But again, growth is rarely easy. Growth often feels lonely. Sometimes the more a person grows, the more disconnected they begin feeling from environments that once felt familiar. Their mindset changes, their priorities change, their dreams change, and not everyone grows at the same pace. This can create emotional distance in relationships. Sometimes people misunderstand ambition. Sometimes people interpret boundaries as arrogance. Sometimes people become uncomfortable when women begin valuing themselves differently. And honestly, one of the most painful parts of growth is realizing that not everyone will support the version of you that is evolving. Some people only support women when women remain easy to control. The moment women become more confident, educated, independent, and emotionally aware, some people begin feeling threatened. Not because independence is wrong, but because independence changes power dynamics. And change makes many people uncomfortable. This is why many women spend years minimizing themselves. They hide their intelligence, they hide their ambition, they apologize for their success. They become smaller just to avoid criticism. But constantly shrinking yourself to protect other people's comfort is emotionally exhausting. And eventually many women reach a point where they become tired of apologizing for existing fully, tired of apologizing for wanting peace, tired of apologizing for having goals, tired of apologizing for wanting respect, tired of apologizing for believing their future matters. And honestly, they should never have needed to apologize in the first place, because wanting dignity is not arrogance. Wanting stability is not selfishness. Wanting independence is not rebellion. It is human. Another important reality people rarely discuss is that independent women often carry enormous emotional responsibility. Many women become emotional support systems for everyone around them. They support friends, they support family, they support siblings, they support classmates. And while supporting everyone else, many women quietly neglect themselves because they feel they must always remain strong. But carrying everyone emotionally eventually becomes heavy. This is why boundaries matter. And learning boundaries is difficult for many women, especially women raised to constantly prioritize others. Many women fear disappointing people. They fear seeming rude. They fear conflict. So they overextend themselves emotionally. And after some time, they become exhausted. One of the most important lessons ambitious women eventually learn is this: you cannot pour endlessly from an empty emotional cup. Rest matters, mental health matters, emotional peace matters. There is nothing weak about protecting your peace. In fact, emotional intelligence is part of real strength. And perhaps this is something younger girls especially need to hear. You do not need to become cold to become strong. Many people confuse strength with emotional numbness, but true strength is not becoming emotionless. True strength is remaining kind in a world that sometimes rewards cruelty. True strength is continuing despite fear. True strength is healing instead of becoming bitter. True strength is remaining hopeful during difficult times. A woman can be ambitious and soft-hearted at the same time. She can be disciplined and emotional. She can be independent and loving. She can be intelligent and gentle. Human beings are complex, and women should not be forced into unrealistic stereotypes. Another difficult reality is that growth often requires sacrifice. Sometimes people imagine success as something glamorous, but often success is built quietly. It is built through lonely nights. It is built through discipline. It is built through consistency. It is built through failure. It is built through sacrifice. And many people only see the final result. They do not see the years of stress, fear, rejection, and uncertainty behind it. Especially for women from difficult backgrounds, sometimes simply continuing education becomes an act of courage. Sometimes simply believing in your future becomes an act of resistance. And honestly, resilience is one of the most beautiful qualities human beings can develop. The ability to continue despite uncertainty, the ability to rebuild after disappointment, the ability to adapt after painful experiences, the ability to remain hopeful despite difficult realities. That kind of resilience changes lives. And perhaps independent women are not strong because life was easy for them. Perhaps many became strong because life forced them to become resilient, because struggle changes people, pain changes people, responsibility changes people, loneliness changes people. Sometimes people become mature earlier than they should because life gave them no other option, and this is why compassion matters. We never fully know what another person is carrying internally. The woman who looks confident may secretly feel exhausted. The woman who seems successful may secretly be emotionally overwhelmed. The woman who appears strong may secretly need support. This is why kindness matters more than people realize. And honestly, one of the most important things ambitious women must learn is that they do not have to earn basic human worth through constant achievement. Your value as a human being is not dependent only on productivity. You are not valuable only when you are achieving. You are not valuable only when you are performing. You are not valuable only when you are succeeding. You are already worthy of dignity and respect, simply because you are human. And perhaps this is one of the biggest struggles modern society creates. People begin tying their self-worth entirely to performance, grades, money, career, status, achievements. And while goals are important, human beings also need emotional balance. Otherwise, they slowly become disconnected from themselves. This is why self-awareness matters. Independent women must learn not only how to achieve, but also how to emotionally survive, how to rest without guilt, how to protect their mental health, how to say no, how to recognize burnout, how to maintain emotional balance, because burnout is becoming extremely common today, especially among young people carrying enormous pressure. Many students are exhausted, many workers are emotionally drained, many young women are silently overwhelmed, but people rarely talk honestly about it. Everyone wants to appear strong. Everyone wants to appear productive. Everyone wants to appear successful. Meanwhile, many people are struggling internally, and this is why honest conversations matter, because people need spaces where they feel understood. Sometimes hearing someone say, "I understand your struggle," can reduce a person's loneliness enormously. And loneliness is becoming a major issue in modern society. Ironically, people are more connected digitally than ever before, but emotionally many people feel isolated, especially people living away from family, especially students abroad, especially ambitious people carrying pressure quietly, because growth journeys are often lonely. When you are trying to change your life, sometimes people around you cannot fully understand your mindset, and that isolation can become emotionally difficult. But perhaps loneliness during growth does not always mean you are on the wrong path. Sometimes growth naturally separates you from environments that no longer align with who you are becoming. And while that process feels painful, it can also create space for healthier relationships and new opportunities. Growth often requires courage. Courage to continue when things feel uncertain. Courage to rebuild yourself after setbacks. Courage to believe your future matters. And honestly, one of the strongest forms of courage is continuing even when you feel emotionally tired. Because life is not always easy. There will be moments of disappointment, moments of self-doubt, moments where you question yourself, moments where everything feels overwhelming. But difficult chapters are not permanent. Human beings are far more adaptable than they realize. People survive heartbreak. People survive failure. People survive uncertainty. People survive painful transitions. And often, the experiences that once felt impossible eventually become the experiences that shape a person's strength. This does not mean pain is beautiful, but it does mean human beings are capable of healing. And healing is important, especially for women who spent years carrying emotional burdens silently. Healing means learning that your worth is not based only on sacrifice. Healing means learning that rest is necessary. Healing means learning that boundaries are healthy. Healing means learning that your dreams matter too. And perhaps one of the most powerful things a woman can do is stop abandoning herself just to satisfy everyone else. Because constantly sacrificing your emotional well-being to make others comfortable eventually destroys peace. And peace matters. Not temporary validation, not social approval, not perfection. Peace. Real peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you are living honestly. The kind of peace that comes from respecting yourself. The kind of peace that comes from building a life aligned with your values. And honestly, independence is not really about becoming untouchable. It is about becoming capable. Capable of making decisions. Capable of surviving difficult situations. Capable of protecting your dignity. Capable of creating opportunities. Capable of building stability. And every woman deserves the opportunity to become capable. Not because women must prove superiority. Not because independence means rejecting relationships. Not because strength means isolation. But because human beings deserve freedom, dignity, and choice. And perhaps true independence is not becoming emotionless. Perhaps true independence is reaching a point where you no longer betray yourself just to satisfy other people's expectations. That kind of strength is powerful. So if you are a woman trying to rebuild yourself, educate yourself, heal yourself, or create a better future for yourself, remember this: you are not selfish for wanting peace.